Okay, so today I'm going to show you how I'm going to decorate this bottle, and I'm doing this now because we've got Valentine's coming up fairly soon, and I thought this would be quite nice to spruce this up, use it as a centre decoration on a table, or use it on a little corner shelf, or whatever really. But I'll show you what I'm going to do. But first things first, once you've cleaned and obviously cleaned out the whole bottle, you do need to give this a wipe over with either some like surgical spirits or some alcohol, and this like a 50% or 70% alcohol. This is just what that is here. So I'm just going to wipe that over with a paper towel just to get off any residue that would have come off on your fingers. This just helps you to make sure that the actual paint you're going to apply to this is going to stick, and it's just making sure that we're wiping it all the way over, making sure that is totally clean. And I do think these bottles, they're so, well, they just lend themselves to being decorated. You can just quite simply put some little fairy lights inside, and you can get these really cool ones now where it looks like the top is a cork, and that's actually the on-off switch, and then just have that as a decoration. I think they're just wonderful. Okay, so we're just going to let that dry a little bit. The next thing I'm going to do, just move that to one side, is I'm just going to cut out some very simple little hearts. Nothing special, but just sort of random sizes. I'll just do them on here so it makes it easier to cut. And these I'm just going to stick onto the bottle, and you'll see the way I'll do that. So it's just a case of cutting. And you want enough to sort of be able to fill it up fairly evenly on the surface. So as what will happen is when we paint it, we can take these off, and then obviously there'll be just the clear glass underneath, because I too are going to put some little fairy lights inside and use this as a centerpiece on a table. But you can make lots and lots of these, so I'll cut some more out and then I'll be back shortly. Okay, so what I've done here is I've cut some hearts out of the paper, and all I've done is I put a little bit sticky tape on the back, and I've just stuck this down wherever I sort of wanted to, very randomly, straight onto the bottle. Now you're probably thinking, well, they're not adhered fully down. No, they're not, but the more careful you are when you apply the paint, you'll find that you can just go over the top of them, and once you've done the whole process, they will just peel off a lot easier. I've seen some people do something very similar, and they've used a double-sided tape, but that's been proven to be quite hard to get off afterwards, and you don't want to ruin what's around it. So I'm just going to apply these, and we'll just be very gentle when we apply the paint. And that is the next step, and all you're going to need is just some acrylic paint, white paint preferably for this particular one, but it doesn't have to be anything special. And I've just got a very old lid that I'm using to put my paint in, and I'm also going to apply it with a sponge, because it does go on a lot easier with a sponge. Once it's gone on with the sponge and you've done probably a couple of coats, you could use a paintbrush, but I would say that for this technique, being as you've got these paper hearts, I would just leave it, and I would keep using the sponge all the way through. So we're just going to make a start, and I'm going to take the top out. It's going to make it a little bit easier for me to hold. And we're just going to start by literally just applying this paint, and we're just going to dab, and as you will see, it will start to adhere quite nicely. And we're not putting a thick coat on because we want this to dry. And if you just literally go quite flat over the top, then it won't go underneath these hearts, and you'll just be able to leave a nice sort of really quite soft looking heart afterwards. So it is about being quite gentle and just applying it very steady handedly, and there, we'll just keep going. And there, as you can see, as you start to get round to the last bit, just being very mindful all the time that you are keeping it as flat as possible. We'll just go around and do the neck. And this is going to have to dry fully before you apply another coat. It's very tempting when it sort of feels like it's almost touch dry to give it another go, but you'll just pull the paint off that's on there if you're not careful. And the easiest way of you can also speed up the process a bit by using a hairdryer, or if you're able to, put it into just a warm area where it's got time to dry off. So as soon as that's dry and we've applied, I will probably apply at least another coat, maybe even 3. So once that stage is done, I'll come back to you. Okay, so this has actually had 3 coats, and as you can see, the hearts that we stuck on are still perfectly in place. And now what I want to do is I want to use some of this silver metallic paint. It doesn't have to be this particular brand, this is just what I happen to have. It doesn't have to be silver, you could use red if you wanted to, but I just thought, you know what, I know it's Valentine's, I thought, well, I've got the hearts that can represent that, but maybe this could then be used at other times and it doesn't just have to represent Valentine's Day. So, and I really love the metallic paints. So again, I've just put some in a little top of a jar, and I'm just going to use my sponge, and I'm just going to do this really carefully, because once again we don't want to blob it on there anyway because of the paper, but we also want to make sure that we're not sort of giving it too much of a heavy look. So this is just going to be quite gentle, and I am really just dabbing. I am not applying in any force. I'm just letting the sponge do most of the work. Some parts might be a bit heavier than others, that doesn't matter, but we'll just keep applying it on and moving it around just so as we can get a really nice effect. We don't want it to be too you know, we still want the white to show through, because I think that's what gives it a really nice soft effect. And I will just carry on with this and see how it goes. Okay, so I think we're nearly here with that. I will just make sure that I'm not missing any vital bits, and if there's anything that I feel we maybe need to just touch up or maybe apply a little bit more, I think we're just about there. So that needs to dry, and then obviously we need to take the paper off. I'll see you again soon. Okay, so anyone that crafts knows that you can be halfway through a project and you suddenly get another idea, or you get to thinking you need to add it or do something slightly different than what you first had in mind. And to that, that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I like the silver, I like the white, I just feel it needs something to lift it a little bit. So I've got some more Lumiere paint here, which is the acrylic, which is just a gold metallic. I've mixed it well, and I'm just going to dab again, but this time I'm going to make sure that I can take off that excess, and it's a bit difficult to do within the pot, but I'm just going to dab a little bit on the paper first, just so as I can get a slightly more even, and then I'm just going to put this very randomly just to fill up some of the high spots and some of the low spots there, because we've got quite a dark areas with some of the silver. A little bit heavy-handed with the silver, but I just want to soften it a little bit more and just give it a little bit more depth, I suppose. So I'm just going to carry on with that. I think that's going to be a little bit better. So what I'll do is obviously let that dry, and then we'll take our hearts off. Okay, so the gold, the silver and the white is now dry. So now we can actually remove our hearts. You need to be a little bit careful about this, just because you don't want it to catch any of the paint on the outside, because it will pull it up. You may find that the tape will come with it. It might not, so you just need to take it a little bit steady. Once you've pulled it off, you'll be able to reveal the nice heart that was left behind, and I think they look wonderful. So it's just a case of taking each one off, like I say, just gently. You can do this on smaller sort of version. You see a little bit of paint's come off there, but don't worry about it. Using masking tape, but I've only got sort of this size masking tape, so you can cut them out and then use those, and that obviously would be flatter. You wouldn't have any sort of edges, so it'd be a bit easier to paint. But so as you can see, the paint does want to lift up. But and what I would do after this is just very carefully give it a coat of varnish, obviously just going around the hearts. You don't want to put the varnish on the glass preferably. So I'm just going to take these off, and then we will show you what they look like with the lights inside. Okay, so all the hearts have now been revealed, and I'm really quite pleased with that. I think it's going to look absolutely gorgeous with the lights inside. But really what you need to do now, just to seal this acrylic, is to give it a coat of varnish. And this is just Fimo, and it's just a water-based varnish. You can use anything water-based basically, but you just need to obviously be careful going around the hearts. So I'm going to make a start with just doing around the hearts to start with, just so as it I can give it a layer there, and that way I can sort of pretty much brush on with a larger brush around the other parts. But this is worth doing because it will seal that acrylic, which is what you need it to do. That way you can at least wipe the bottle off. I wouldn't recommend you put it in a dishwasher or anything like that, but at least you can give it a clean. So I will carry on to doing this, and then we will see the end result. Okay, so as you can see, I've managed to put the lights in. Now these ones have got the little battery on the end. You can stand this up and you can disguise that with something on your table, or if you have it on a shelf you can hide it behind the bottle. But you'd need to sort of shake them up a little bit if you want to move them around. But you can get the ones that can go straight in the bottle, and it's just a very small little torch, and you could maybe have to just stick it inside the neck of the bottle. But I just love the effect, and this can really blend itself to any time. It doesn't have to be Valentine's, but obviously with the hearts it's a good time of year to start using this. So have some fun, and any questions please ask.